case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Was that what's taken so long with this Epstein files?
Yeah, what's up with that?
What is up with
Mr. President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled? Why do you think that is?
Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest of what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
Bro, where's the videos? They were telling us the videos are going to come out, incredibly high-profile people doing horrendous things, evil things. People are going to go to jail. People are going to be shocked.
Yeah.
Where?
Right.
Nothing.
Well, like...
A tape in the NBC archives of a Mar-a-Lago party shows Trump giving Epstein his personal attention. The footage, shot in November of 1992, before Trump opened the resort as a club, shows the future president surrounded by cheerleaders for the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, capturing Trump's fun-loving bachelor lifestyle for an appearance on Faith Daniels' NBC talk show.
We're going to get great ratings in your show.
Trump is surrounded by women as music blares in the background. After a while, Trump goes to greet 3 new guests, among them the financier Jeffrey Epstein.
Come on in. Go inside.
More than a decade before his guilty plea on state prostitution charges. Later in the footage, Trump is seen talking to Epstein and another man as women are dancing in front of them. Trump alternates between dancing and pointing out women to Epstein and the other man and telling Epstein about the cameras. Though exactly what they say is difficult to understand as they discuss the women and their appearances, Trump gestures to one and appears to say to Epstein, "Look at her back there. She's hot." And then Trump says something else into Epstein's ear that makes him double over with laughter. But as the president says now, he never liked Epstein.
I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his.
What? On the
DOJ and FBI
on what?
review,
On what subject?
Epstein.
Okay.
On Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No. She's given us just a very quick briefing. And in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen, and I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden information.
Are you chatting shit, Donald? You're saying if your enemies had dirt on you pre-election, then why wouldn't they have released it already?
We went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it. But she's handled it very well.
No, she's not. None of you are. Which is why it's making it more suspicious.
There's a lot of intrigue surrounding the release of the Epstein files, Martin Luther King files, John F. Kennedy files. Some current and former FBI agents are saying, some of them telling me, that they feel the FBI establishment came out ahead in the standoff sort of with the New York FBI field office over releasing the records, and your Attorney General Pam Bondi demanding them but not getting all that she wanted. Is that process still on track? I think that's one of the most often questions I've been asked the last couple of days, to release these records on Epstein, MLK, and JFK.
Well, Pam Bondi's done a phenomenal job in every respect. And there could have been some holdback. I haven't heard too much about it, but they could. But the bottom line is the records are getting out. The Kennedy records are getting out. Those are the ones they really wanted to see the most, were the Kennedys. And during my administration, as you know, I released a lot of them, but then a lot of people started coming in, people that are respected, people that work for the administration asked me not to release it.
Like, what the fuck's going on?
What the fuck is going on? Also, there's this real fear that someone's destroying the evidence, and you keep hearing these stories, unsubstantiated stories, of FBI people.
Well, where is the
shredding.
evidence? I mean, the guy
what's
had
going
like
on?
tons of videos and recordings.
Yeah.
I mean, he had all sorts of things.
Right.
Like, there's a mountain of evidence.
Right.
So where's that mountain?
Yeah, where's that mountain? And what would be the reason why they would agree? Like, there would have to be something in it for them to agree to not put it out, right? Like, there has to be some sort of financial entanglement, some sort of relationship with the people that are on that list, that they can provide a value that was big enough for you to not release it, or to slow release it, or to hope you can get away with like putting out some redacted files that don't show anything. Say you got a big drop coming tomorrow, and that's some bullshit that's been around forever.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, what the? And where's the JFK files? Where are those?
Yeah,
let them go.
Did they release anything on that front? Or?
I don't know what's going on. It can't be anything that's gotten to me yet. So if nothing's gotten to me yet, it can't be significant.
If there's conspiracy evidence, someone's going to send it to you.
Yes, Tim Dillon's going to text me. 100%. Tim Dillon, Dave Smith, someone's going to send it my way.
Somebody's going to send you the stuff.
Yeah. So it hasn't been released yet.
No way.
Yeah, you would find out. And here's the real question: like, what could even be in there at this point that they haven't cleared out? If you've got paperwork from 1963, like, what is in there still? What is in there that could possibly be incriminating that supposedly Trump said that if you saw what they showed me, you wouldn't release it either? Okay, what the fuck?
And asked me not to release the rest. And
say
I
why?
respected that. They gave me certain reasons, but I respected that. And I did say, I must tell you, I said that probably wish I did release the whole thing because I have no idea what's in there. But since then they found, and we found 2,000 more documents on Kennedy.
I want the real truth to prevail. And there's this concept of a limited hangout. This is a CIA tool, and I'm sure you've heard of it, but for your audience that maybe hasn't, when they believe that disclosure is inevitable, a secret, a taboo, hidden narrative that they don't want to get out, when it's inevitable that it is going to go out, what they will do is they will leak out some of the truth. The public is so enamored with the new information, they go no further, and they actually don't get to the critical details.
Bill Clinton. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
That island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew.
How is it that my father could be convicted of 34 crimes, but no one on Epstein's list has even been brought to light? I'm trying to figure out how that's possible, right, folks? It's almost like they're trying to protect those pedophiles for some reason. I can't imagine why, right?
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Everybody in politics has a vice that's much worse than alcoholism, is the way that I put it. But we
release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
In this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
I'm not ever going to let this story go because of what I heard from a source about Bill Clinton on a plane with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not letting it go ever. Ever.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
If you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera.
Go after those traffickers.
Out of all the information that's getting disclosed, supposedly this administration, what do you have the least faith that we're going to come to
Epstein,
a conclusion?
for sure.
Epstein.
And I think it's because of Israel. I think
Really?
that because I mean, when you really dig into Epstein, his entire network was Israel. It was clearly like Ehud Barak was the ex-prime minister and the ex-head of Israeli intelligence. Leslie Wexner was one of the most powerful pro-Israeli philanthropists. The whole organization was Israel.
So
and
it was
I'm not saying it was all of Israel.
It was
I'm not-
all an intelligence gathering and
it was targeting Americans. It was targeting American officials and the American president.
Right.
And the CIA does have interest in those targets too. Elements in the CIA does. Certainly they had help from the CIA, and certainly they had help from these other organized crime and intelligence operations. But you don't, like, so for example, Dan Bongino, the new, deputy director of the FBI? He recently had this clip that went all around where he said on camera that he had a source that he trusted deeply. And he's an informed guy. He was at a Fox News interview, and the source told him that Epstein was working for an intelligence agency in the Middle East. And I don't know which one, but someone in the Middle East. And to be fair, we all already knew this. We already know who he worked for. At least I think so. But I'm looking at, okay, Dan, so if this giant group of Jewish billionaires is running a sex trafficking operation targeting American politicians and business people and stuff, you think they're working with an Arab or Muslim nation in the Middle East? Like, you think that Leslie Wexner is devoting his entire life to philanthropies on behalf of Israel, but then he's going to work for Saudi Arabia when he's doing this trafficking ring?
Right. But if someone says to him that they're all working for a country in the Middle East, knowing he knows what that means, but not specifying, doesn't he kind of have to repeat it that same way?
Well, he also has to repeat it the same way because he won't get the job if he says Israel. Because
Exactly.
Israel has
Right.
so much control over our government right now. And I'm
Extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA. That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things, murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting U.S. president. It's got a whole trail of crimes. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave. You're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that foreign governments not be allowed to act against your interest. That's not creepy. It shouldn't be forbidden. And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow, that that's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online, where people feel like they can't just say, like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of a foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes. So I think it's better just to say it right out loud. Did this happen? And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you.
Comprehend how completely asinine everything they are telling us is. And you probably need to be refreshed on what actually took place on that day that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. Also, even the few weeks before that, when he actually was taken into custody. Okay. So let's go back to 2019. okay, a few weeks before his mysterious death, on July 6th, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein is arrested on federal charges related to sex trafficking, okay? He was taken into custody. His plane lands in Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, and he's returning from Paris, no less. Don't even get me started. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We will bring you that Epstein Parisian series with Xavier Poussard. But he's coming back, and he lands, and they arrest him in Teterboro Airport. And after he's arrested, they immediately assign him to the special housing unit. And the reason that they give the public is because, look, this is a high-profile arrest. This is Jeffrey Epstein. We want to make sure that he's kept safe. So he's going into a special housing unit. And by the way, knowing what we know about his previous arrests and the special housing circumstances of that sheriff's office in Miami, I'm thinking now maybe he's expecting to be put somewhere separate from the rest of the prisoners. Something that I've always noticed about Jeffrey Epstein that's very off-putting and kind of puts a chill down my spine is how confident he always was. That smirk that was always on his face. We saw that smirk when he was a teacher. We see that smirk. It's like Jeffrey Epstein knew in this way that he was never, ever actually going to be held accountable. No matter what photos you see of Jeffrey Epstein, he looks kind of happy. He's not exactly fearful of the legislative system. He's not fearful that he's going to get in trouble. So when you fast forward to the morning where he allegedly kills himself, that is on August 10th, again, just a few weeks after his arrest, given everything we know about how powerful Jeffrey Epstein was, how powerful his connections are, he knows everybody, right? Jeffrey Epstein, by the way, is from New York, pulled up, right? Everybody from finance executives to politicians know Jeffrey Epstein. The conclusion here is already quite strange. It's quite strange that we know a few weeks after his arrest he's going to commit suicide, because if you're Jeffrey Epstein and you know everybody, so much so that back in 2007, you virtually got off with sex trafficking, right? And this time in 2009, what he's being charged with is less. He's being charged, again, sex trafficking of minors, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of those minors between 2002 and 2025. But to him, you just beat charges with a bogus pretend plea deal where you were able to move into a sheriff's office that was specially designed for you. They were hanging up TVs for you. You were allowed work release for 12 hours a day. You were so powerful, you made the officers dress up in suits as they took you off campus to your office, right? And greeted the people that were meeting you. And then you made them disappear the list of the people that were meeting you. This is not prison. This is pretend, okay? We know that. So if you're Jeffrey Epstein and that's what happened when you went to prison the last time, really went to jail, wouldn't you maybe take your chances that you're going to get off this time too? Wouldn't at least your perception, even if you didn't get off, you'd be like, well, you know, prison for sex trafficking is really just not that bad. It's great. I was running the show. This does not make any sense that he is the king of New York. He's the king of Florida. He's got everybody on speed dial. And yet we know he's going to commit suicide a couple of weeks after his arrest. And we're supposed to believe also that nobody gave him a heads up that there was a warrant for his arrest in New York. I don't believe so. Anyways, we are told the official storyline is that a couple of weeks later, he just was in his cell and said, I can't do a few more weeks. I couldn't possibly do this. I've come so far in life. I know everybody. I'm unbelievably wealthy. I'm internationally renowned, protected by the state of Israel, but I can't do a couple of weeks in prison. And this is the timeline of what we are told happened on August 10th, okay? At 6:33 a.m., and I made this for you, so excuse if there's any typos, I just did this morning, but at 6:33 a.m. on August 10th, an alarm was activated in that special housing unit because Jeffrey Epstein was discovered hanging from a noose that was fashioned out of bed sheets. Around this time, we're told that a call was placed to first responders, and the correctional center the officers attempted to revive him. That's per the FDNY. Then we learned that at 7:10 a.m., the ambulance takes him to the closest hospital, okay? At 7:24 a.m., a photojournalist named William Farrington for the New York Post, he works for the New York Post, creates a file, the metadata became available, for the first 2 photos of Jeffrey Epstein being transported into the hospital where he's going to be pronounced dead just 12 minutes later. So I just want you to understand the amount of luck that this guy had from the New York Post. Now, me and the team are debating this. I'm like, I lived in New York. You're not just a photojournalist that's just sitting outside to see who's going into a hospital. Okay, clearly somebody tipped you off, but somebody would have had to tip you off that it was Jeffrey Epstein even to do that, because if somebody calls you and is like, yeah, some guy from the prison is being transported to the hospital, you'd be like, yeah, this is New York. Big deal. You know this is a big get, and you're telling me you are able to, wherever you are in New York at 7 o'clock in the morning, sprint across New York, this William Farrington guy, and you get the photo. And it happens to be that you work for the New York Post, which is a whole Israeli op. Don't get me started. The New York Post, the one that did like Candace Owens Anti-Semite of the Year, New York Post, the New York Post that has literal IDF soldiers that write for them. Yeah, that New York Post, their photojournalist, William Farrington, happens to be in the right place at the right time, got tipped off and made it across town, wherever maybe he lived nearby. A lot of things would have had to go right for William Farrington to capture that photo, okay? So he captures that photo, uploads that into whatever the New York Post database is. And let's get this timeline back up. So that's at 7:24 is when he does that, okay? And then at 7:36, just 12 minutes later, Jeffrey Epstein is pronounced dead by the emergency room physician. And let's take a look at those photos, by the way, that he captured. These are the 2 photos that he captured. So you see he's got this photo, and the photos are taken, according to the metadata, 8 minutes apart. That's one photo. 8 seconds apart. So that's one photo and then another photo. So that person who looks like he's getting air into Jeffrey Epstein's lungs is in one photo, and 8 seconds later, or 8 seconds before, he's suddenly not in that photo anymore. Okay, whatever. We don't need to be conspiracy theorists. But the New York Post was there to capture these photos, and they are going to be the first to give us these photos. But they're not going to be the first to report that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. So that's weird. The New York Post is on the scene capturing this photo, but they are not going to be the first news organization that reports that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. So maybe that photojournalist, not only is he so lucky he captured the photos, he didn't even know what he had. He uploads it to New York Post, and he's like, I don't know, I just stand out here and I take photos of people coming into the hospital, which happens every second of the day, but I'm here and this might be important. Anyways, the first news report, actually at 8:16 a.m., even stranger, a mysterious 4chan post appears, and somebody announces on 4chan that Jeffrey Epstein is dead at 8:16 a.m. We never got an answer, of course, as to who that is. We do learn this year, by the way, that Israel controls a lot of the posts that are on 4chan. But we can park that aside. We don't need to be a conspiracy theorist. Let's just go with the facts. That 4chan post hits at 8:16 a.m. And then at 8:54 a.m., the first news report comes out of ABC from a journalist named Aaron Katursky. And he's the first that tweets that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Sources tell ABC that Epstein committed suicide at MCC Manhattan. Now, a couple of things weird about this. First off, Aaron Katursky has got a lot of luck. He's one of those journalists that's always there when something happens. He also was one of the first to know that Michael Jackson was dead. Whatever. Lucky guy. I'm sure he was there when, Pearl Harbor got attacked, when 9/11 towers went down. He was probably there the day JFK got shot. Who knows? All we know is he is the person that is the first to tweet that Jeffrey Epstein is dead and died of suicide. Now, what's even weirder about that guy is the fact that he works for ABC News. Why? Because ABC News infamously killed the Jeffrey Epstein story. They had it for years about the sex trafficking, about the girls, and from the top, the journalist that was lower rung, which was Amy Robach of ABC News, was told to kill the story. How do we know this? Because she got caught on a hot mic saying that ABC honchos plus the royal family came down and made her kill the story. Here is Amy Robach caught on the hot mic venting her frustration about the fact that she knew about Epstein and was told she couldn't report on it. Take a listen.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything.
So she went out, she got that story. She interviewed Virginia. As we know, she was the one that made the allegations against Prince Andrew. And she's saying for 3 years she knew this. And they came down on her, ABC News execs, with pressure from the palace and said, you're not running the story. First they gaslit her. Nobody knows who he is. And then they said, oh, you're just not running the story. And it was over. But now ABC News, mysteriously, first to report it, not the New York Post. And the New York Post again, William Farrington caught these photos. Now, you would think maybe he would win Photojournalist of the Year. I think they have a Pulitzer Prize for that or something. But mysteriously, William Farrington does not want to talk about how he got there on that day and captured those photos. In fact, he wants absolutely no credit. It's virtually impossible to find anything about William Farrington on the internet. You should try. You should try, because apparently he's got multiple names. Maybe it's Roger Farrington. I can find him. There's like one photo of him at an Israel Day parade. I'm not kidding. I can't make this stuff up. In New York, somebody caught him like taking a photo. But this guy's got a long career. He's working for the New York Post. He captures this photo and doesn't want to talk about that anymore. Okay, William Farrington, whatever. Now, later that day of his alleged suicide, William Barr, who was the Attorney General at the time, United States Attorney General, is the one that comes out and gives a statement. Now, I should be clear, he's the Attorney General under President Donald Trump. This is 2019. So Trump administration is in power. William Barr is the Attorney General. And I would say him giving a statement on Jeffrey Epstein, knowing what we know now about his dad, Donald Barr, the guy who literally wrote the book on Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, Space Relations? Yeah, by Donald Barr, the story about a country of Khazars that has so much power, stupid power, and they're running human trafficking, sex trafficking. And then Donald Barr, who happens to be a teacher, writing these weird fantasies about children and sex trafficking rings of the Dalton School. He's running the Dalton School, and then he just plucks Epstein up out of obscurity. Yeah, Donnie Barr, Daddy Donnie Barr. William Barr is the one that gives the statement. He says that day of the suicide, I was appalled to learn that Jeffrey Epstein was found dead early this morning from an apparent suicide while in federal custody.
Bro, where's the videos?